This is part one of my interview with Dylan Mars Greenberg. For part two, see part two. Hi everyone, I'm Scooter Pie, and I'd like to introduce you to another exciting episode of Good Night with Scooter Pie. Before we jump into it, I just wanted to say a few words about the person who I had the pleasure of interviewing recently, my friend Dylan Mars Greenberg. She is a filmmaker and musician who has already done so much at such a young age, so you should feel like, in comparison, you're totally non-ambitious and have done nothing. Just kidding, you're amazing. She has 6 features, is currently working on a 7th, is doing a bunch of directing for music videos, has a band called Theophobia right now, and she's done a lot of work with Troma and is appearing in an upcoming Troma film, and is also Miss Subway's 2019. So we talk about all of these things and more in our interview, so please enjoy it. Ooh, applause. Before I show the interview with Dylan, I'm just going to show a clip of one of her films that I got to be in. It's called Werewolf Bitches from Outer Space. Enjoy.
I see a rainbow on Harmony Day. Harmony Day, Harmony Day, Harmony Day, Harmony.
Can we just kill him too?
I mean, it ripped in a pretty strategic place, so.
Dylan Mars Greenberg. Woo!
Hi.
Applause. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Good Night with Scooter Pie.
Thank you. Good night, Scooter Pie.
Good night. I figured that people say good night to each other, but when they're leaving each other, but
Yeah.
it's really just I'm telling everyone to have a good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you say good morning, you're not leaving.
Right. So I'm just recapturing the phrase.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thank you. So you are coming to us from New York City.
Yeah.
How are things over there today?
I have not left my house, and my partner is currently in the other room watching Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Sounds like fun. So we have known each other now for, I think, about 7 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and we get to work together professionally because you directed a film that I was in.
Yeah.
Called Werewolf Bitches from Outer Space.
Oh, yeah. Well, I directed 2 films you were in.
That's right.
I also directed.
Yeah. So it's such an honor that I got to work with you in those 2 films. And I saw that you recently posted that these films are available in Troma now has a streaming service.
Yeah, it's like Netflix for Troma movies.
That's incredible.
So they're now available to watch on Troma now.
And everyone should do that right now.
The first month is free.
Exciting.
You get 30 days free.
Yeah, and also thanks for making that happen because now I get to feel like I'm part of the Troma universe. So personal achievement for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, are you currently working on a film?
Yeah, well, I have my film Spirit Riser. I just finished editing. It's my fantasy epic. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it features Michael Madsen and Shuri Curry from The Runaways.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she's one of the stars, and Amanda Flowers, who was also in Werewolf Bitches, and a lot of other great people. Oh, and Alan Merrill, my late friend, who knew a lot of us and knew Reverend Jen and stars of the film as well. And also did some music for the film.
Oh, cool. So you are a very prolific filmmaker and musician. And I know you've had a few different musical projects, but now, I mean, maybe it's tricky with every, live events not happening, but you're currently in a band?
Yeah, my band is called Theophobia,
Mhm.
and we are exactly a year old now, I believe, as of like a few days ago. And we, in that 1 year, we won Miss Subways collectively. It was actually me and my bandmate, and we won it together. We did all the performances and everything as a duo, because we found out you could in fact go on stage with two people at the same time. So we won that, and we were then covered by the New York Times, and then we also had our own live special on PBS, and it's streaming right now on pbs.org.
Really? That's so cool. What's it called?
Well, it's the show is called Sounds on 29th, and it's a music program. Mm-hmm. And they invited us to the Sounds on 29th stages, and we perform about 20 minutes of music, and it's pretty cool. We had our own episode.
Oh, cool! Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know that also. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying you can find it on pbs.org.
Cool. And I know that also there's a movie made about you. That's true. Documentary. Will you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that's that documentary is called Woman from Mars, and it's a 40-minute documentary directed by Piano Whitman, who I have actually been a fan of for years. And she's also a really great musician, and I was actually a fan of her music, and then she started directing films. I'm just going to turn this light off because it's a glare. And then she said, I really want to make this a documentary about you, and she came in from Virginia, and yeah, every few weeks would come in from Virginia and chronicle whatever I was doing. And she's a really incredible cinematographer and a really great storyteller. And I was glad that the film wasn't necessarily a puff piece about me, if that makes sense. I didn't want it to be like a vanity thing of like, oh, Dylan's so great. Like, I wanted it to be kind of unbiased. So I think that it is a pretty fair, like, unbiased depiction of me. So I like that. Like, I like that it, like, there's a few times where it just shows me I'm kind of freaking out because I'm filming something, I sometimes I'm not keeping my cool. There were stressful situations. We were shooting in the dead of winter. A bunch of cast members dropped out because it was so cold, and they wouldn't show up to the set because there was like ice everywhere. So it kind of chronicles me through that and making some music, and also starring in the Troma movie that I just acted in.
Oh, cool.
And so she came onto set with me one day, and which that is not out yet, but it should be out pretty soon. Shakespeare's Shitstorm.
Oh wow, what's that about?
Shakespeare's Shitstorm is kind of a spiritual sequel to. Have you ever seen Tromeo and Juliet?
Yes.
So it's kind of the spiritual sequel to Tromeo and Juliet. It's an adaptation of The Tempest, and Troma version of The Tempest. And it stars Lloyd as Prospero. And I play Shrini, who's kind of a modern version of Trinculo, the jester from The Tempest. But obviously it's very obscene, and it has a social message about how huge pharmaceutical companies are pushing dubious products on young people. Much like The Toxic Avenger had an environmental message. And yeah, I think it's really funny. It's very off the wall and crazy. Amanda Flowers also stars in it as Ariel, and she's great as Ariel. That's always my favorite character in The Tempest. And I co-starred with Zoe Geltman as well, and Monique Dupree, who's an incredible female wrestling diva from House of Hardcore.
Wow.
her and also Debbie Rashan, who was also in Romeo and Juliet, and a lot of great cast members. Lloyd actually plays a dual role. Also, he plays his own sister as well. So that's pretty cool. And actually, in the documentary, he's in drag.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty interesting.
Well, I'm very excited for that to come out and to see that. So you're usually behind the camera. So how was it to but to be an actor specifically on a project and not directing it?
Well, things are very hard when, they didn't bring me, my, food on time to my trailer. And, when my personal assistant, wouldn't bring me my lobster, on time, she was a few minutes late, I would ask her to hold my ring, and then I would slap her.
Sounds like it was really difficult.
Because it's a $50,000 ring. No, I'm just kidding. It was a humbling experience, honestly. At Troma, you're not, you don't get what's going on? The video isn't. Wait.
You're back.
There we go. At Troma, they don't, you don't get treated like a star. You get treated like, you're there to work, and you're there as a team. I think that's the key word, is that it's a team effort, and I think that's really important. That you're not, no one's below you. The actor helps the crew. The crew helps the actor. Everyone's there. We're all in it together. It's not like anyone is above. So I think that's really important. And I think that every actor should be in a Troma movie at some point, just to keep their minds right.
How did you get involved with working with Troma in the first place?
I called Troma every day when I was in high school until they gave me an internship.
That's amazing.
And then that became a full-time job as their editor for 3 years. And yeah, then I ended up, I now work as a freelancer, but I still do some work with Troma from time to time. And obviously in their movie was a big thing for me. So, I guess just they had sent me the script, and they basically said, and I didn't get the role just because I had worked there, but they said, I think it would be great if you auditioned for the role of Trini. I think that you would fit into this character very well. And I read it, and I was like, this is a fucking great role. This is exactly the role in the script I want. I wouldn't want any other role. And I auditioned 10 times for it. It's a rigorous audition process. They bring you through and they don't play favorites. So I had to compete against other people to get the role, even though they knew me and they didn't know the other actors. I still had to audition, and I think that's very fair. If there was someone who was better than me, then the role would have gone to them.
Did you have to bring a monologue to audition with, or did they give you something?
First one, yeah. The first one I memorized the monologue from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when Willy Wonka's in the scary tunnel.
Oh, wow.
Going, there's no earthly way of knowing, which is perfect because my big scene in the film is that I'm on the top of the ship and in the middle of the tempest, and whales are shitting on me. And it is a little bit like the scary tunnel scene in Willy Wonka, and they shot some of it on a real boat in the middle of the Adriatic Sea in Albania. And so that we actually went to Albania to shoot that. And then
wow.
And then they also had me on a fake mock-up of a boat that actually was incredibly, because when they said, we're going to have you on a green screen on the boat, I was assuming because it's Troma, okay, they'll maybe construct some, of the bars that you lean against or something, and shoot it where you can't really see what's behind you or anything. And, they just green screen you behind. But I got there, and it's actually a full-sized top of it's a full-size cement like top of the boat that was unloaded like springs, and they had stagehands with poles attached to the boat that were rocking it back and forth to simulate a storm. And so I actually had to like flip onto my back in one scene, like over and over and over again. So when I got back from New York, thank God they gave me like a few weeks break so that I could just fucking lie in my bed for a few weeks, because it was back was killing me.
Wow.
But I also have the back of a 95-year-old, so someone a little more spruce might have dealt with it better.
So when you were getting into this project, did you know you were going to have to go to Albania?
Well, I accepted the role, and then they were saying, I think it was even when I was still auditioning, they were saying we're thinking about shooting in Albania. It's probably not going to be till like September or August. And then they call me and they go, it was like June 1st, and they're like, okay, we're definitely shooting in Albania, and you have to leave like June like 15th, and, like 15 days or something, or maybe it was like June 16th or 17th or something like that. It was like mid-June, and it was very like last minute. And me and my co-star Zoe Geltman flew out to Albania, and so we shot with an Albanian crew there, and a few members of the American crew. And then there were a lot of Albanian extras for the top of the ship. But then when we got to New York, there was the bottom of the ship, and that was shot in New York City.
Cool. Sounds like quite an adventure.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking incredible. It was pretty fucking incredible. Lloyd's a fucking incredible. I mean, he really makes this shit happen. Him and John Brennan, who is a good friend of mine who produced it, also he fucking killed it producing this movie. I mean, he had so much on his plate, and he fucking he found probably the greatest location ever in New York. He found this club in Queens, because there's scenes that take place in a nightclub that Prospero owns, and he found a club that has two giant rooms, one of which looks like a nightclub, and the other room looks like the inside of a ship. So we actually shot two completely different locations in the same location. It was fucking genius.
Yeah.
And you would never, in a million years, you would never know that it was the same. It was the same place, because the two rooms are so vastly different.
Thanks for watching part 1 of this interview. For part 2, watch part 2.